Two brothers. One woman. One fragile night, and a secret that refused to stay buried. Welcome to African Folktales by UJ. Please subscribe for more epic stories. Susan met James at a charity dinner in Lagos. He was everything she had prayed for. Confident, well-spoken, and kind. He was the kind of man who noticed little things, how she liked her tea, how she smiled when nervous, how she frowned when deep in thought. They started dating soon after. To Susan, James was perfect. To James, Susan was peace. Months later, James introduced her to someone. "Susan, meet my twin brother, John," James said. Susan's smile froze for half a second, but she quickly recovered. "Oh, you didn't tell me you had a twin." "Well, now you know," John said. They shook hands, pretending to meet for the first time. But behind their polite smiles was a secret neither dared to reveal. Because long before James, there had been John. They'd met online months before she met James. It started as casual chatting, then late-night calls, and one evening, one thing led to another. It was supposed to be a fling. And they went their separate ways as things didn't progress. And now John found out that Susan was now dating his twin. He said nothing. He only smiled to himself and whispered, "Let's see how long this lasts." 2 years later, James and Susan were married. They lived in a big house in Lekki. James was doing well in business. His twin brother, John, on the other hand, was struggling. When John lost his job, James offered him a place to stay. "Come and stay with us for a while, bro, till you're back on your feet," James said. "Yes, John. You're welcome anytime," Susan said, somehow tensed. "Thanks, bro. You're too kind," John says as he smiles quietly looking at Susan. And that's how the three of them began living under one roof, a husband, a wife, and a ghost from her past. At first, everything seemed fine. John was quiet and helpful. He fixed things, ran errands, and sometimes cooked when Susan was tired. But James began noticing things. Her laughter came easier when John was around. Her tone softened when she called his name. And John always volunteered to stay home instead of going out. One evening, James walked in unexpectedly and found them laughing together in the kitchen. Nothing strange, but something didn't feel right. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stared at Susan beside him, wondering, am I imagining things, or is something going on? Over the next few weeks, his suspicion grew. Susan avoided eye contact when John was mentioned. John quickly changed topics whenever James entered the room. 3 months later, James traveled to Abuja for business. He kissed Susan goodbye, hugged his brother, and left. 2 days later, Susan received a call. "Madam, there's been an accident. The car caught fire. We are sorry, your husband didn't make it," the voice said over the phone. Susan dropped the phone. Her scream filled the house. The news broke her. John tried to comfort her, staying close, holding her hand, making sure she ate. He also tried to stay strong as a man. Days turned into weeks. They buried his remains as he was burnt beyond recognition. And soon, comfort turned into closeness, and closeness into something dangerous. One rainy night, as they sat crying together, John whispered softly, "I miss him too, Susan. Every day. I feel so lost, John," Susan said. He touched her hand. And before they knew it, grief turned into desire. That night, they crossed a line they could never uncross. Guilt became their shadow. They avoided eye contact in the morning and pretended everything was normal. But the heart doesn't lie for long. Months later, Susan realized she was pregnant. She panicked. "John, I'm pregnant," Susan said. "Susan, what are we going to do?" John said with fear and uncertainty in his voice. Susan replied, frowning. "What do you mean?" James is gone. You're the only one left. Maybe this is meant to be. John nodded slowly, though fear filled his eyes. But someone else was already watching every touch, every whisper, every kiss. Months passed. Then, one quiet evening, there was a knock on the door. Susan opened it and froze. James stood there. Alive. Calm. Cold. James. You're alive. Bro. John said, voice shaking. James stepped inside slowly. James looked around and the only thing he said was, wow, when he said her protruding stomach. Susan trembled. James, it's not what you think. She said. It's exactly what I think. James quickly responded. He dropped a small remote on the table. With a click, the TV lit up. The CCTV footage began to play, Susan and John in each other's arms. The room went silent. John froze. Susan began to sob uncontrollably. Please. James. I can explain. She said while crying. Explain what? How you smiled at him the same way you smiled at me. How my own brother took my place, in my house. Bro, I'm sorry. I swear I didn't plan for this to happen. John said. James looked at him with a faint smile in his face. You think I didn't notice? The way she laughed with you, the way you lingered when she spoke. You both thought I was blind. So I gave you both a chance to show your true selves. I installed a CCTV in your absence. Susan fell to her knees, crying. James, please, I'm carrying your child. It happened before you left. James laughed bitterly. My child. Susan, I can't father a child. I found out last year. I wanted to tell you. I was even planning for us to adopt. But now I see, the child is my brother's. Susan froze, shaking. Oh my God. Save your tears. They mean nothing now. James said angrily. He turned to John. You betrayed me, John. My own blood. You took everything I had. And gave me my biggest wound. John tried to speak, but James raised his hand. It's fine. I'm done fighting. I already sold everything. Including this house. The new owners will move in next week. So both of you, find somewhere else to stay. He picked up his keys, looked around one last time, and said quietly. You can bury a man's name, but you can't bury his truth. And he walked out. Weeks later, Susan moved back to her mother's small house in the ghetto. Few months later she gave birth to a baby boy, the image of the man she betrayed and the brother she lost. She named him JJ, a reminder of love, loss, and shame. Sometimes, she sat by the window, whispering softly. James, I'm sorry. For everything. But the silence that answered her was heavier than forgiveness. John vanished. No one ever heard from him again. And James. No one knew where he went. Moral of the story. When you choose deception over truth, you don't escape pain, you only delay it. Loyalty isn't proven when things are easy, it's proven when temptation knocks. And sometimes, the person you think is gone, is the one still watching. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and leave a comment about what you think about the story. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our epic tales.